like to call this public hearing to order tonight, April 27th, 2015. Clerk Kornecki, could please call the roll for the public hearing.
Yes, Trustee Aiello, Trustee Bolfus.
Here.
Trustee Taglia.
Here.
Trustee Case, Trustee Wagner, President Bullwinkle.
Here. Okay, we have an agenda in front of us. We'll flow through this. This is in regards to the long-term control plan. Item number 2 on the agenda is overview of the combined sewer system, the National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System permit program, and the long-term control plan. So with that, I'd like to toss it over to the staff that can get you started.
Thank you, Rhonda. Thank you very much.
We'll talk about the purpose of tonight's meeting.
At this time, I believe we have a representative from RJN with us this evening, Vinny, to take us through the overview. So, thank you.
All right, thank you. This, like you said, this is going to be an overview of a little bit of a progress report on the long-term control plan, and also an overview of the CSO O&M plan and pollution prevention plan. And that will all make sense what that is in a few minutes, I hope. And I'll leave hopefully enough time for comments and questions. So first of all, again, just to recap what the long-term control plan is. Essentially, it's a requirement by the Illinois EPA. It's part of the Federal Clean Water Act regs, and it's a condition of the permit to operate the wet weather flow treatment facility. That's, of course, this building at Monterey and Fairfield. So what the long-term control plan is it relates to the combined sewer system. So that the combined sewer area, I'll get to what that is in a minute. And it's essentially creating a plan to limit the occurrence of combined sewer overflows, or CSOs, to Salt Creek. So here's the combined sewer area. Again, it's just the area between the UP Railroad and Madison, so the older part of town, central area. The areas to the north and south, which were developed later, have separate sanitary and storm sewer systems, and were developed that way. There you see the WWFTF on the east side of town. Hone in on that area. There you see where the 4 CSO locations are. And then also SCSD is the Salt Creek Sanitary District treatment plant. So just the overview of how the system generally works. On a dry day, normal flow conditions, all the flow goes to the Salt Creek Sanitary District plant, along with all the flow from the separated areas to the north and south. And then on a rainy day, when the flows pick up, the WWFTF picks up what exceeds capacity of the Salt Creek plant. And then in a really extreme event where the wet weather flow facility has all its capacity utilized, that's when it's possible for flow to overflow at one of the 4 CSO locations out in the Salt Creek. And this is all regulated by control structures, so they're engineered structures that dictate that the flow is only going to where it's supposed to be under the various conditions, and that all of the treatment capacity is maxed out before one of these CSO events occurs. So where the village is at in this process, basically over the last 30 to 35 years, as with road improvements, the village has gradually separated the combined sewer system into separate storm and sanitary systems, and as a result, these events are becoming increasingly rare. And with the long-term control plan, essentially what the IEPA and the federal regulations ask for is to limit these events to 4 or fewer per year. And what the long-term control plan is intended to do is to provide basically a timeline and a plan of action to meet that goal. And part of that is this CSO O&M plan and pollution prevention plan. So what are these? Well, basically, they differ from the long-term control plan in that these are standing documents. So the long-term control plan, again, is something that is for a fixed period and purpose, and sunsets, where these are more documents that are part of the ongoing maintenance of the system. So what are they for? Again, they're more to outline routine procedures, maintenance activities, public participation programs, things like that. And ultimately, it's to, again, minimize the frequency of these CSO events, and then also to mitigate any environmental impact that they have. So the current version that is on the books right now, or that the village operates with, was developed in 1998 and adopted, and as part of the long-term control plan, they just want to make sure that this document gets updated. Obviously, things have changed. So the current CSO O&M plan, what's in it? Basically, there's a few main sections. First, it's just an inventory of the system, and so how much sewer there is. But then the two main things that are highlighted in there are the operation of the wet weather facility, as well as how those CSO control structures work. So, and then also the ordinances. So part of that is regulation of industrial discharges, so any non-residential waste, make sure that there's no illegal discharges from that. And also this sump pump disconnection program. And essentially what that does for this CSOs is the removal of sump pumps from the combined system, reduce the stormwater loading on the system, and therefore reduce the probability of a CSO event. And then also the routine maintenance procedures, things like cleaning streets and catch basins to make sure debris doesn't get washed into the sewer system, and then also cleaning, flushing, and televising of the sewers, and of course any repairs. So maintenance activities to make sure the sewers are fully operational and not impeding flow. And then the pollution prevention plan, part of that is public participation programs. So some of the things that are currently in there are the curbside recycling program, and then also the hazardous household waste program, and to make sure again that these things don't end up in the sewer system and are disposed of properly, and then also activities that the village does on a routine basis. So street sweeping and done at least monthly throughout the village, and then also leaf sweeping in the fall. And again, this is partly a flood prevention measure as well, so that inlets don't get clogged and flood the streets, and then also just to make sure that these things don't settle in the sewers and impede capacity. Also, stenciling of inlets so that people don't dump things illegally into inlets on the street, and then also shoreline inspection of Salt Creek and the other creeks in the village, to make sure that if any evidence of a CSO event is identified, and then any cleanup of debris and such that can be carried out is done. So things that we're going to include to update the document, and a lot of this is just things that the village has been doing, and just to make sure that it's being acknowledged. So one of the things is the e-waste recycling program. Of course, information about that is all on the website, but the monthly drop-off for that, and also curbside yard waste collection. So again, all things that make sure that these things don't end up in the sewer systems. Also, the use of beet heat for a more environmentally friendly alternative to standard road salt for de-icing. And then also something called an IDDE, which is essentially to regulate and prevent any kind of illicit discharges, so dumping of hazardous materials or any kind of illegal industrial discharge into the sewer system. So enforcement of that, as well as BMPs, best management practices for construction sites, again, just to make sure that construction debris isn't getting into the sewer system and ultimately potentially out into Salt Creek, but is being cleaned up responsibly. And then updates to the CSO O&M plan. One of the main things is the FOG program, and a big part of that is a priority list of known areas that could be subject to fats, oils, and grease, and making sure that those are flushed more regularly. And then also enzyme treatments, so that's biological compounds that can be added to the sewer system, which essentially break up grease and make sure that they don't coagulate and create big lumps of grease that impair the sewer capacity. And then the sewer backup response plan. So essentially that's to make sure that anytime there is a sewer backup or an overflow, that it's reported in a timely manner to the state, and that the cause of it is also investigated and remediated if possible. So just to make sure that the cause is known, and if there's a problem with the sewer system, that there's a quick and timely response to that. Also, the real-time monitoring of those CSO control structures. So that's something that the that staff has recently upgraded so that the equipment that's monitoring those is remotely connected to the monitoring equipment at the treatment plant and at the public works facility, so that any CSO events can be monitored in real time and reported. And then also the update to the hydraulic model, which was initiated about 1.5 years ago, is also part of the O&M. So understanding of the system. So making sure that the village is also credited with that. So the one new item that to bring up, new requirement that they've asked is a public notification for CSO events. So what that would entail, what would typically entail, and what the IAPA asks is first some kind of either website notification or some kind of mass media, social media, things like that. So they can take on different forms, but typically it's something like that, like a page on the website that posts when there is a CSO event, and then also physical signage at the CSO outfalls. So that would be just here's actually one of them. So at those 4 outfall locations at Salt Creek, erecting some kind of physical signage, just so that if in the case of a CSO event, people are aware that that has occurred. Here's a couple examples. The one on the left from MWRD, and really anywhere in Cook County where there's a CSO outfall, there's one of these signs. There's one on the right from another state, slightly less intimidating looking, but ultimately it's just to make sure that it's public knowledge that that's an area where there could be a combined sewer overflow discharge into the creek. So as it shows, not to do anything in the water there, basically, when that occurs. So the follow-up from this, that is the main action item. The other main action item is to incorporate any comments from tonight's meeting, things that should be added to these documents, to these standing documents, and then submit those updated documents to the IAPA for their approval. And then, like I said, implementing those CSO notification procedures and coming up with a plan for that. And then as far as the remainder of the long-term control plan, again, what that's going to entail is identifying what other improvements might need to be made in order to remain in compliance with those limits set out by the IAPA, so those 4 CSO events per year, and then have a plan and submit it to the IAPA before or by April 2016. So with that, I'm going to take your comments and questions.
We just flowed through basically items 2 through 5. on the
Oh, yeah, I'm
agenda.
sorry, that was
That's okay,
the
yeah,
entire
so-
agenda. I'm
Yep,
sorry, yeah,
no,
I
that's
didn't
good,
pick it
that's
up.
good.
So-
Wasn't sure how much I should read up front.
Oh, no,
I'm
that's
glad we
okay.
just got it
Yeah,
all
yeah.
done, one full swoop. So
Yes.
then we'll, item number 6 is staff input. I want to give them an opportunity. If there's anything else they want to add really quick before we get into the public. Questions? You might have a few other things you want
Just
to
one
add.
brief comment. This is Vitas Giskillis, Director of Public Works. The long-term control plan will dovetail with the other plans that have already been initiated and completed by the village. So the Hurricane Ike study, which was initiated about 2 years ago, addressed combined sewer overflow. So this plan will build on that report, and we will also coordinate this with our 2 flood control studies, which were presented to the village board 2 weeks ago. So the idea is to have all these studies dovetail with each other going forward.
Yeah, that sounds good, combine it all. Talking about combined sewers, we're talking about combining reports. Okay, with that then, public participation. Is there anybody from the public, you folks with us tonight? Any questions about this? We toss it up here. Okay, how about the board? Anybody? Trustee Wagner, hi.
You mentioned storm drain stenciling obviously it's a beneficial thing to alert people not to dump things down storm drain. And I know our Environmental Concerns Commission many years ago had undertaken a storm drain stenciling program, and that was many years ago. And I know that some storm drains actually have something imprinted on it that says this flows to a stream or some verbiage like that. Do we know how many actually say that? Or my question would be, maybe this is something that a group like the Environmental Concerns Commission might want to get involved in? Would it be beneficial to the village to have them start a program like that again?
Comes our Director of Public Works, Vitas Triscalis.
As you mentioned, it has been some years since we've had any type of storm stenciling program. I believe the last one I recall was actually an Eagle Scout project. So obviously, if the Environmental Concerns Commission or some other organization or organizations want to work together on that, staff would definitely help them along in that process.
Yeah, I think the Eagle Scout was actually helping them, but I could be wrong. But it was many years ago.
It was many years ago, that is correct. So if there's any Eagle Scouts out there looking for a project, here's an opportunity.
Okay.
That's all I have.
Good. What over here?
I got-
Yeah, Trustee Case.
And some of the sewers and street sewers, they don't have they're not solid, or they don't have the gate on some of them. Why is that again? Can you,
Well, the open grates are typically either storm sewers in the separated area or curb inlets in the combined sewer area
Okay.
because they're meant to allow drainage. If they're just a sanitary sewer, they will have a closed lid and have to be watertight.
okay.
Okay, anybody else? No? Alrighty then, I think with that, motion to adjourn?
Motion adjourned.
Trustee Bolfus, for the second? Okay. You want to adjourn?
I'll second.
Okay, Trustee Taglia. All right. Should we do a roll call vote on that? We'll do a roll call.
Sure. Trustee Taglia.
Yes.
Trustee Case.
Yes.
Trustee Wagner.
Yes?
Trustee Aiello.
Yes.
Trustee Bolfus.
Yes.
President Bowinkle.
Yes, okay. We adjourn this meeting, our public hearing, and we will be back in 12 minutes for the regularly scheduled board meeting. So don't go too far. We'll be right back.